Hello, everybody. As promised, a 2 for Tuesday. Staying super with Simply Super Dave. Hope your Taco Tuesday has been very well for you so far as the nighttime has settled in on us. And we come to another end of the day. Getting one day closer to Christmas coming up this weekend. See, the streets are still busy. As I told you before this morning, I live near a red light. And I'm right on the edge of town, so it's like to the suburbs kind of area, and I don't live in a nice house or anything, so don't think that I am wealthy to do. I am, like I said, low to the ground, very humble. But these streets are still pumping. Yes, they are. Very busy. I even see a mail carrier going around. Oh my gosh, that's just, hate to be working into the night. I always either like to get off before it gets dark, but man, when you're out still doing stuff and it's dark, it makes you feel like it's later at night. The time change always gets me every season. I don't like the winter time because it is dark most of the time. You have short days, so you got to get a lot done in a little amount of time, or at least it feels that way. Like I said this morning, life is all about perception and how you want to do it and how you want to fill your bubble. And we talked about energy earlier this past week, starting Sunday. We brought up that concept. So what energy bubble do you have? I hope you've been thinking about that, because your life is all about that bubble and everything you put into it. And so, you're just I'm looking out in the street and I'm seeing at the red light, I just see a bunch of bubbles running around. Little multiverses, as you may want to call it, because if you think about it, we're all living in the moment. Okay, like I said before with this concept that I keep bringing back up, because really you're in the moment. You control it at full length. It just depends on how much control you have over your emotional energy inside your bubble. And like I said, if you can control those emotions with your happy thought, like I said, this all comes together. If you listen to all the podcasts, all this kind of comes together. But don't get me wrong, every now and then there's a hole in the bubble. Something goes wrong. Life is that way. That's why the bubble's so important, because you can be bounced around and go with the flow, float on the top of the river like a leaf. You're riding along. No sense should anyone ever have in their head that they control their destiny. I don't think anybody can really control their destiny. If you can, I think that you have mystical powers beyond all, and that you should make yourself known to us, like Elon Musk, and save us. Now there's an interesting topic. How do I feel about Elon Musk? I think that I wish more rich people would take some initiative and step up and do something. He's doing something, and he's doing things in the name of some of the things I believe in, like free speech and not censoring it, and, letting everybody have a say, and then letting the people decide. I think he put up a poll, should he resign, and he might do this, resign as CEO of Twitter, which means he would still own it, but he would have someone else run it, you know what I mean? But, because maybe he don't have time for that, Maybe he's tired of it already. Whatever the reason, I find it fascinating that he did take over that platform. He did give it an overhaul, and I like it. I like knowing there's a platform that isn't going to just show me one side, and to see the truth of what social media platforms have been doing with stories and information that is shoveled out to you, and how that pushes people in a certain way. Not you critical thinkers, though. You critical thinkers make up your own mind on situations. But there is a lot of people out there that are just woke. Remember, when you wake up, you're delirious. You're not quite all there. It takes a little time to really wake up. After you get to the coffee table, like I said, I'll be there waiting. And if you're at the coffee table with me, then you have to ask the question, then how are we going to get the majority of these people to get to the coffee table? Because once that happens, then some things can happen. But right now, there's too many people walking around like zombies doing exactly what they're told, and that needs to be broken, And it all starts with your bubble. What you put in there. Now, earlier this morning, I did hint to a future episode that I would talk about the mark of the beast. Well, it's not a big, like I said, spooky situation. It's just, I like to look how stories are put out, regardless of what religion it comes from. As long as it's written in a history book somewhere and it happened, don't get me wrong. I live by the motto, nothing is true and everything is permissible. And if you're a video game fanatic, you know exactly what video game franchise that comes from. If you're not, just listen to it. Nothing is true. Everything is permissible. That means just question everything. Don't take anything at face value. History's been written by the winners. There's always two sides to every story, and then there's the third side, which is just the unbiased truth. Because usually when you hear a story, you're usually on one side of the story. We are taught that there must be a hero and there must be a villain, and there must be good guys and bad guys. And that's just sometimes not how the world really works, It all just depends on the perception of society at that moment in time. And a lot of people forget that when they look back in history. They think, there was people back then that knew better, but they weren't the majority. In a time, history has shown us that we have been a very crude society, becoming more civilized as we are today. And the mark of the beast, like I mentioned earlier, would be something that everybody would want. It's not something that people would be like, oh, that's the obvious mark of the beast. I see it. It's no, that's 666, whatever. It's not going to be obvious. And it wouldn't be something that you were scared of. It would obviously be something as the devil would tempt. You hear the old stories about, and you hear these things in conspiracy theories where musicians sell their soul to the devil at the crossroads. Bob Dylan talks about that in interviews. You can look it up. Kanye talks about the contracts people are tied into to where, if they don't, they would be in jail or, drugged out of their minds in some psych ward somewhere or something. I mean, anyway, long story short, Lord, that's a rabbit hole. That is a rabbit hole. But you really have a lot of control of your own life. And if you aren't tied, people will go to great lengths to be successful in this country. And all those stories sound like they're insane. But when you start looking back decades and finding clips that are uncovered, interviews and things that were kept quiet, and you start realizing that a lot of everything that's out there, there's, you're getting one version of it. And as soon as we find out truth through, Twitter being bought by Elon Musk, that the information is filtered. And it always reminds me of the great scene from Good Morning Vietnam starring the great Robin Williams. Good morning, Vietnam! You gotta love Robin Williams. He always gets you pumped up. But the scene where he goes to read the news and he feels like this should be known, this should be known. He was doing it morally right. The military was censoring it because of strategy. I get that. But it shouldn't be done in modern day times. And JFK, that was one of the greatest moments in history on the bad side for the people, because he was a representative, a president, probably the last president to be a representative of the people, to speak the truth and try to keep things as transparent and honest as possible. And the government was in the middle of their heyday of really shaping the country to be where it's at today, government-wise. And he was assassinated for that. And I think every other president took heed notice since then, and they follow script. And but the thing that changed that assassination and what really kind of broke things open for the people was that it was caught on film by Zapruder, which is why it's called the Zapruder film. Nobody planned on that. And that changed everything, because no one believed what really happened that was told by the government. And to this day, still, even with records being unlocked, everything's still kind of blacked out, and you still don't really kind of get the more obvious truth of what happened, because it's all part of the narrative, because the winners write the history. So it's always good to look at facts and look at the story, but think about it. Really think about it. Put it in perspective, and then look at the information. And then look at it from the other perspective and try to see, well, it depends just what side you land on. Well, in this country right now, if you land on either side of what's been going on, then you're kind of creating the problem that's going on in our country. And I believe there's a middle, because obviously that's what our country is built on, is people of diversity all living together as free thinking, free people, to be able to chase our liberties and dreams down as we may. And if we don't have to, you know. It just depends what you want in life, if you're going to go out there and earn it or not. If you're going to put forth the effort, you know. Some people, I accept my limitations that I have put on myself, and I know that I'm my own worst enemy. But that's my daily battle. You know, I am no way perfect, shape, or form. But I do my best to make sure the energy in my bubble is as best it can possibly be. Hopefully people can see the aura of my bubble and realize if I'm in a good mood or in a bad mood. But I try to keep it positive. And doing things like this podcast helps out a lot. And again, if you want to be interactive with the podcast, give me some topics. Get on a list for an interview down the road once we start doing those. Got to build an audience first. I don't want to promote people to people they already know. I mean, you know, hey, Bob, meet Tom. Y'all know each other already, but I'm going to promote each other. That don't make sense. So we got to build an audience first, but definitely get on that list if you want to. And that's a big shout out to the people that I definitely interact with on all my platforms, including TikTok and Twitter. Twitter, of course, being the one that I'm biggest on, so that's where you want to interact with me at. Yes, I do drop TikTok, so definitely check those out. All SimplySuperDave. I am trying to own that name everywhere I go. YouTube is the biggest platform to probably follow the podcast on. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict. There's several others, but those top three right there. The YouTube channel has all my awesome streams from Twitch that I may do a couple more before the end of the year, before I close that out. There's no point in me streaming. I'm not a real good video game player. And it was all about conversation anyway, and that's what the podcast is for. So we're going to focus on the podcast and let go of the streaming. I will be there to endorse my streamers. I do say, people, you need to check that kind of platform out. There's a lot. If you have a certain hobby or activity, I definitely think Twitch is the way to go. There is other platforms like Trovo, which I have a person there that I need to download that app for. Mr. Nutter, you know who I'm talking about. But on Twitch, you can find people that does crocheting, video games, housing market, stocks, music DJs. Oh my gosh, the music DJs. How can I forget that community? A lot of love and laughter and big ups to all those guys. Help get me people that actually listen to this podcast from around the world, like from the UK. And possibly Australia, I know of. And that's cool, because I keep in contact from people around the world that I want to find out the vibe that's going on where they live at. So like I said, I keep myself kind of grounded, and I like being that way. And I just like to share with you everything that goes on through my head and how I deal with the crazy world that we live in. And if any of the information I share with you, or if I just get you to start thinking about, I don't know, interesting stuff rather than all the crap that they're trying to make you think of, then I've done my job for the day. I hope all of you really focus on love and laughter in that bubble and keep bouncing around off of that hate and fear and avoid it. Be a conqueror, not a victim. See you tomorrow on Hump Day. Have a great rest of your Taco Tuesday.